Hello, welcome to Old Scary World. Tonight we'll be looking at the Nuragic civilization on the island of Sardinia in Italy. The Nuragic civilization was said to have existed between the years of 1800 and 1100 BC, but as we know through research that these dates are horribly wrong, as with most things, but let's just assume that that's when these civilizations popped up. Now it's said that there's roughly 7,000 of these structures, these Nuragics as they're referred to. And they're consisting of wells, towers, and other monuments, other construction that's credited to the civilization. Here we have an overhead view of a rather large, suppose a village, I would imagine, that was to house, according to records, a few hundred to even a few thousand people. Each one of these circles here would have been taller, obviously. Now we're missing rubble. It could be argued that this rubble was used to build other structures, taken away over time, eroded and so forth, but these towers would have represented sort of apartments or sort of like condominiums, places for trade, places for not just trade as in goods and services, but also trades as in blacksmithing or anything like that, medicine. And then if we look here, here's a figurine, a little statuette that was recovered from the area, and this was I think depicting some type of clergy, some type of holy man, some type of religious deity perhaps. And they find these scattered around here. You can tell by the quality of the photography here that this is probably part of a museum collection now. Anyways, we'll be looking at another one of these later, so you can kind of get an idea of probably not what the people look like, but who they worshipped or how they at least saw themselves in some way. Alright, so here we have an example of one of the little towers here, the type of construction that they were doing. Now the interesting thing is that 7,000 of these structures exist on the island of Sardinia, but it's a relatively small island, and as we know, the amount of work it would take to build these. And then they are also said to be of a warrior culture. In other words, they were always at battle. So we have two kind of conflicting narratives there, in the sense that they were constantly constructing and then also defending the land. Take a tremendous workforce, not to mention the caloric intake, food. And I bring that up a lot in my research with the food consumption to keep a workforce and a standing army. Something worth looking into, the diet. And then you look into the diet of the Mediterranean. Healthy diet, don't get me wrong, but still something doesn't add up there. So yeah, we have that. Okay, and then here, now this photograph is interesting here because I see it as almost kind of like a literal bridging between the old world and the new world. Obviously you can see here, this is newer construction, the shutters, and you can just kind of tell. But then there's these arches that connect here, and there's this overgrowth. And at least in this image, it kind of is metaphorical or symbolic of the bridging of the two worlds, the old and the new. And this is on Sardinia as well. This might not necessarily be an example of Nuragic culture, but nonetheless, it's kind of it's a pleasant image here. Kind of just two worlds, kind of standing between two worlds. So that's why I included it here in this video. But alright, on to the next image. Okay, here we have another overhead view. Okay, and we can kind of see the new stuff here, and some farm, some open pastures and things, and then we kind of see just the immensity of it. Okay, and you can kind of imagine what was going on back then. Relatively same climate, same environment. and they're building these things here. And I just think it's something I didn't really think about before, that I kind of re-stumbled upon it and haven't seen a lot of talk in the old world, Mud Flood, Tartaria, you know, kind of sphere of discussion. So hopefully it inspires some more people to do some videos like this. But yeah, you know, moving on here, and feel free to pause, screenshot, you know, leave in the comments anything you think that I missed on that one. Now this one, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm not too sure about this one. It's just, it has a certain look to it that it almost looks fake, almost like it's more of like a representation, a reconstruction. But then you look down here and there's this obvious damage. So if it was a rendering, you know, why would they make imperfections like this? So I don't know, maybe it's just the lighting or something, but something seems off about it. But let's just assume it's real, and let's assume that it's based off of something real, at least. And we know that from the previous, you know, figurine, that this was more or less the style here now. So it doesn't really matter, but it's just something seems a little off about it. I don't know. But anyways, the point is let's look here. And he's got these crazy eyes. He's almost like hypnotic eyes here, like he's under a trance. Got the hand up, obviously. Now this, you know, could signify peace, and then the sword could signify war. And then he's got like this tablet here, kind of a blank slate, literally, kind of thing here around his neck. And it looks like he's got almost like braided hair, or something like that. No mouth, but these eyes are very interesting. And then the horns here, the horns are very interesting, as we know, if you're into the study of the Babylonian, the Canaanite gods. You know, this could be like a Moloch or a Baal kind of representation, so that's interesting. Taurus, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then the sword is interesting too, because there's no, the tip here is blunt, so that's another reason why I think it might be real. Because if it was a reconstruction, why wouldn't they, you know, tip this off? Or maybe that was just a weird kind of weapon that they had. It wasn't like that. And then here, okay, there's some extra symbolism there, the way, almost like a wave pattern or something like that. But then it's like this hilt is strange. It's like rectangular, it's squared off, kind of strange. And then back here we see the remnants of some type of altar or some type of temple, something like that. Now there's said to be thousands of these things in various states all over Sardinia as well. So that's worth looking into. You know, as always, you know, I'll probably do like a part 2, maybe. You know, I mean, I'm kind of just scratching the surface on this whole Nuragic culture thing. Very fascinating. So let's just move on to the next image now. But before I do, once again, these eyes. I mean, you gotta admit, these eyes are intense. They're very... Okay. And then... Now, it's almost the same kind of thing here, but a little bit different, right? Because this tablet has this symbol. Now, anybody who's keeping up to date with certain things, and a few years ago especially, there was a certain island in the Caribbeans, you know, little St. James. Not going to really get into that in this video, but for those who know. And this matches with that too, because it's a water thing. This is like kind of a universal symbol for water. And one could argue for mountains, but I associate this more with water, because this is very similar to the symbol of Aquarius, and then also in the Egyptian hieroglyphics they have this kind of almost symbol for water. But back to this red one here. You know, for those who know what this means, what this symbolizes. So that's really interesting. And then once again, the intense eyes, hand up, this sword, but this one's curved back a little bit. Okay. And these were idols. These were some types of deities, something that the Nuragic people, you know, worshipped, or at least how they personification of themselves, maybe, or the personification of some spirit, some type of warrior spirit. But I mean, this can't be ignored here. This is this is staring right at us here. So once again, you know, for those that know, you can look it up. If you don't, you know, take a screenshot, reverse image search, you know, think about it. Okay, little strange. Okay, now this is the inside of a well. The Nuragic culture, the Nuragic people, they were also really well known for their wells, and they had thousands of these wells scattered around the island as well. So here you would have the rope with the bucket, or some type of container to gather the natural spring water down underneath here in the aquifer or whatever, and then these steps would go out to the outside, and there's going to be an exterior shot, an overhead shot of what the entrance would look like. But you can kind of see, okay, this has probably been plastered over a few times, maybe to prevent leaks, or, you know, just some general reinforcement here. This is natural light coming from above. There's a hole above so people could get water without coming all the way down here. Or you could come down here, you know, if you wanted some privacy, or maybe to wait out a storm, or you know, spend the night or something if it's cold, or whatever, you know, you could come down here. But you could also get water from just drawing a bucket down from ground level. So I thought that was interesting. Just a lot of history in this room. Just imagine the kinds of things that happen in here, down the stairs here. Okay, so here's a closer up shot of one of those little villages with the towers, and you can see now obviously the mortar's gone. This wouldn't have just been like this. This could have been facaded. I mean, this could just be the skeleton, so to speak. We have no idea. The framing, you know, kind of the rough framing. It's kind of a low res pic, but you get the point. You know, these railings were probably put in later. These probably aren't original railings. Okay, so you can imagine this is way nicer. Probably a facade, you know, just not in ruins. It's not like they built it like this. You know, people have this understanding or assumption that this is what it looked like in its prime. No, this is the ruins, so it's a lot nicer, and you have people walking around, animals for sale, food for sale, things going on, clothes, you know, what you would expect. Nothing too special in that sense, you know, not too different than what's going on nowadays, but it really begs the question as to how these were all constructed and everything kind of ticked along and everything. So anyways, okay, so here's an overhead view of that well. So this would be the entrance. It's like a keyhole, and then you got like the eye. So this is that where that natural light was coming. There's the stairs, but then you got this whole thing here, this inner circle and this outer circle. You know, it's like an eye, it's like a keyhole, it's like a portal, it's like a lot of things. And then you got some more over here too. And then you got this little eyelet here, goes in a circle. Some other stuff going on over here. Some remnants over here. Okay, there's probably more that just didn't make it, you know, but a pretty simple design, pretty, okay, there's your water, okay. Okay, so now here's another one of those little dudes again. He's got a giant hand, hands up, weapon in the other hand, braided hair, crazy eyes. He's got like a oil funnel for a hat kind of thing going on. So that's cool. But basically the same thing. He's got the almost like a weird kind of skirt or something like that, and then his shoes. Okay, as you zoom in, he's got pretty fancy shoes for the time. You know, and shoes are a pretty good indicator. I know it sounds silly, but you know, the advancement or the technology of the shoes, you know, says a lot about a people or a civilization. And then for some reason he's kind of affixed to this two-prong thing. It's like a stand or something like that. This is probably made out of bronze or copper or iron or something like that. It's kind of hard to tell in the picture. Must be an old picture. But you see how much longer his fingers are than his thumb, and how small his palm is compared to his fingers. That's pretty strange. It's almost like a mitt. It's almost like an oven mitt looking thing. But regardless, there's, you know, representation of his fingers there. And then it almost looks feminine. Like it could be a woman, maybe, even. but maybe that's just throwing me off here, which is this like little dress thing. And then this is strange. This is very irregular shaped, I guess you could say. It's almost like more like a shield rather than a weapon. Although a shield kind of is a weapon too, because you can bash with it. But the point is that this one's a little bit more distorted. This one's a little bit more irregular, I guess you could say. Okay, now here is a cave or cavern, kind of underground temple kind of thing in ruins. And then we see the symbol again here. Okay, for those that know what this symbol represents, at least in our times now, when we're thinking about what I'm kind of subtly referring to. And we know that this is all connected over through time, and there's no such thing as coincidences and all that kind of stuff. And there's obviously some smoke damage. They probably have fires down here now. How the smoke escaped, I wouldn't have, the faintest clue. Maybe there's some type of draft in here. Who knows? I'm sure the archaeologists dug all this up and found little statues and things, and, gold and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, but it's interesting here, the construction. It's not simple construction. It's not just a cave, that somebody crawled into. This has obviously all been worked out with tools, smoothed over, painted with some type of pigment or something that could withstand the elements for centuries, over 1,000 years, 2,000 years, over 2,000 years. Okay, so there's something to be said about that. And these just existed, through time and just survived. Okay, now this one, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure. I should have done a little bit more research, but this is kind of a rush video. So, Domestic de Janus, so Janus. So I'm not sure. I'm gonna be totally level with you guys. I'm not sure if this is in Sardinia. This could be somewhere else. I'll do an edit in the description and in the comments. But yeah, I mean, one could surmise that it's the same, that it's Nuragic. It's got the kind of feel to it, but once again, not 100% on that one. So I'll let you guys know in the comments. I'll look that up in the comments. So you can check the comments after you watch this for an update on that, or the description, one or the other. Okay, so with that aside, let's just look in here a little closer. We see evidence of carving this out. Okay, this probably is not natural. It doesn't look, they got like these archways here, something strange here, type of remnants. Not gonna say it's bones, but yeah, it probably isn't, but nonetheless, it's very interesting. Yeah, then look at the ceiling, how it's textured, very interesting. These natural pillars, but they're obviously been, carved out, mined out. Who knows what's going on down here? Okay, now here's another entrance here. This little thing here, almost like a portal, almost like a gate. This, once again, this is not what it would have looked like in its prime. These are the ruins. We have to imagine it being like much nicer. Okay, and why such a small entrance? You gotta crawl in there, Okay, it wouldn't have been like this. It wouldn't have been exposed like this. This happened over time. Okay, same with this crack here, but this is obviously man-made here, this whole thing. But there's evidence, one could argue that it was hit with some type of natural or unnatural disaster. Not gonna say melted. It doesn't scream, any kind of plasma attack or anything like that, but nonetheless, very interesting thing to have survived this whole time. And sometimes I'll take this opportunity to address something. Sometimes people talk about why do these things still exist? Why aren't they all destroyed? The truth, in my opinion, is that they can't destroy everything. There's just certain things have power. They need to exist. They need to go there and do certain things once in a while under the cover of darkness on certain dates, and they don't want to destroy it. They don't want to destroy it because they appreciate it, and yeah, they have the power to, they have the means to, but they don't, because one, they don't want to, and two, even if they did, you know, people would ask too many questions. It raised too much suspicion, you know, because there's no reason to. It's not hurting anybody, or maybe it is, and that's a whole other like theory. That's a whole other, you know, subject or something like that as to what the purpose of these things are in the modern age beyond looking at them and studying them. All right, here's another overhead view. Now this is a really grand one here. Here at this cape, here at this edge of this thing here. So obviously we have some modern stuff here. You know, maybe, you know, storage or some type of administration, you know, thing going on there for tourists or whatever, faculty. And then we have this tower here overlooking the ocean. I'm sure it was a lighthouse, some type of beacon at some point. Okay, then we have remnants of walls here, maybe even a star fort or something, kind of construction like that. There's something out here on this little island. Okay, and we can see evidence, some footprints of buildings going on here. Okay, who knows where that goes, if that goes underground. Okay, there's some evidence there, but then really you see the old stuff here. Okay, right by the water here. Okay, and then you see this, like an amphitheater. Here's where the people would sit, and here's the stage. Here's the stage, kind of a backstage area down in here. Who knows if there's tunnels and things in there. Okay, we see another kind of keyhole looking thing here, right? This almost this A kind of shape here. Okay, steps, little things there. Okay, and this all would have been built out. There would have been walls and little towers and things. This guardrail is obviously new, and there's some more stuff maybe where people would have lived, shops, restaurants. It's like a mall, you know, it's like a shopping center, it's like a plaza. Okay, we got all this stuff over here I haven't even zoomed in on yet. Okay, there's that. I mean, this would have been like a big deal. This would have been like the place to be back then, you know. And how much work did it take to build this, and how many materials and things, and then it just goes away. It just gets neglected. And that's my big gripe with these things, is why did these things become so neglected over time? It's really interesting, because, you know, it would have just taken a little bit of effort to keep it going, but they just decided to just let it decay. So at one time it's the most important thing, and then over time these things just happen, I suppose. But in hindsight, it's a little strange, you know, that these things just deteriorate. Nobody takes the initiative to keep them up and, you know, in good shape. Whatever. I don't want to ramble. The point is that if anybody's interested, they should definitely look into this kind of stuff themselves. Nuragic culture, Sardinia. Okay, and then here, now, I know some people that watch these kinds of videos, they're into the melted, you know, theory, the meltology and all that stuff. Now this picture, I see evidence of that. You know, I mean, people say, oh, it's water erosion, it's this, it's that, but you want to talk about some melted stuff. This looks like it's been hit with something here. Okay, if there was ever, I know there's better evidence in other parts of the world, but from what I've seen about this Sardinia, about this Nuragic culture thing, this doesn't always appear. It looks very smooth. It looks like it's been subjected to some heat, some warpage here. You know, people say, oh, it's from walking on it and all that kind of stuff. Well, I don't see that in the other structures. You know, I don't always see that. And when they built it, they wouldn't have built it all wavy like this. They wouldn't have built it with this curve and stuff like that. This looks a little strange. Gotta say, it looks a little. I'm not an expert on the subject, but it looks a little weird. And it's got this like kind of purple kind of discoloration to it, all that kind of stuff. And then this is interesting here too, this entrance here into this cave right here on the side here. There's some stuff going on over here, a window or something. So that's interesting. You know, and that's all I like to do, is just point out things and let people come to their own conclusions for the most part. And I sprinkle my opinion or my speculation in there a little bit, but it's really just, it's to pique interest. You know, it's to get people to look into the stuff themselves, in case they didn't know about it. Okay, and then here's the inside of another well, another temple. And the thing about the water wells is they're also temples for the water gods. So they were like temples and a source of water, drinking, bathing, cooking, stuff like that. You know, fresh water. Okay, so this one's really interesting because it almost looks like an altar or a sarcophagus, but then there's all this on top of it, like it was placed there later. I don't think it fell onto it. It doesn't look like it fell, like the roof collapsed maybe, and then just settled there. I mean, we see some evidence of some type of accident, some type of vandalism here. This is chipped off here, okay, obviously. But I just thought it was a little weird how this big pile of rubble was sitting on something that's been all chiseled out and smoothed out, all super nice, like a pedestal here. It's like two pieces maybe. Okay, like this is a lid. I mean, let me know if I sound crazy, but this looks like a lid. Like this could go down. Or it's like an old well, and then this thing, and then this thing here. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. It seems like you could get in through here. Obviously got natural light coming from the ceiling. That could be from damage, that could be intentional. This doesn't fit. This is like, this is all, okay, this is stacked. This is the walls, Okay, maybe this is a doorway. Maybe not. This is obviously man-made here. But then what's up with this? This is like precision. This is like very nice here. I don't know. Maybe I'm just dwelling on it a little bit, but it just something about this doesn't seem right. Because if it was an accident, like why wouldn't you take it off? Why would they just leave it? It seems like anybody could just take it, unless it's affixed somehow, unless it's fused. But then the angle could be tricking me too. I don't know. It's weird. Let me know in the comments. And that's about it. So I think I'm just gonna go back to this one, and we'll end on this image. And once again, I want to thank everybody for watching, and I'll be trying to do some more videos, be a little bit more consistent. If you're not already, check out my Instagram at mudfloodmemes, Old Scary World, same thing on Instagram. And you know, if you want to support the channel, check out oldscaryworld.com. Got a lot of interesting merchandise there, original clothing and so forth. So yeah, with that said, thanks for watching. Goodbye.